Welcome, foolish mortals, to another episode of Book Cafe. This time we'll be reviewing The Haunted Mansion from Disney Kingdoms and Marvel. So, The Haunted Mansion is written by Joshua Williamson, the art is by Georges Colho, and the coloring is by Jean-Francois Beaulieu. So, I recently went to Disney World and rode The Haunted Mansion for the very first time in my life. It was one of my favorite rides because of its originality, all the fine details, and its general spooky feel. It is hashtag my aesthetic. After the ride, I checked out the accompanying gift store, and it was really cool, and I highly suggest you check it out if you're able to. It has a lot of cool stuff. And one thing that caught my attention was this graphic novel that's based around the ride. First of all, if you're familiar with the Haunted Mansion movie with Eddie Murphy, don't worry. This is not the same story at all, thank God. And it is a brand new take with a brand new story using many iconic details from the ride. I'll mention the art first because it was a major selling point for me. The art is wonderful in this graphic novel and is a perfect representation of the Haunted Mansion vision. Like the ride, the graphic novel pays a lot of attention to the fine details, which is something that I think has made the ride so popular in the first place. If you have a spot in your heart for the ride, you'll really enjoy the depiction of the iconic stretching room and the different pieces of artwork and the different displays that you'll find on the ride. They're all included in this graphic novel. Right, so for the artwork, again, we'll skim through. You can see it's lots of bright colors, very spooky feel. This is one of my favorite panels right here. Madame Leota. It's just very nice to look at. Now for the characters. The comic features classic characters from the ride like Madame Leota, Constance the Bride, and the musical ghosts amongst the other ghosts. The portrayal of the characters is pretty good. And then we have the main human characters. So we have this young, typical emo boy named Danny, he's like around 15, and his grandfather, who is recently deceased. Danny is the kind of boy who doesn't really have many friends or strong connection with his parents, not really there for him. He had a very strong connection with his very adventurous grandfather. But when he dies, he's very lost. Danny is your typical heroic protagonist. His flaw is that he lacks courage and bravery sometimes, and during his quest, he faces his fears, ultimately. So the story starts off with Danny sitting in a graveyard. He is mourning the death of his recently deceased grandfather, and then he is called to the Haunted Mansion by Madame Leota. According to Madame Leota, Danny's grandfather's ghost is trapped inside the Haunted Mansion, and Danny is called there to complete a quest to free his spirit. From the beginning, Danny is reluctant to accept this quest. One, because he is kind of cowardly, and two, he was supposed to venture into the Haunted Mansion with his grandfather, so it's kind of a soft spot for him. Eventually, Danny grows a backbone and decides to accept this quest to save his grandfather. Because Danny is such a wuss, getting through the Haunted Mansion is a courageous feat in itself, let alone finding his grandfather's soul and saving it. Getting through this graphic novel is chronologically similar to going through the ride, so that is super satisfying for nostalgia's sake. The only qualms I have with this graphic novel is that it is extremely fast-paced, so the story is kind of just thrown at you. And secondly, the story is a bit simple, which, okay, I understand that this is kind of geared towards a wide range of an audience, so for kids, preteens, adolescents, and then adults. So it kind of has to fit all these categories. But that is one thing that I think is lacking a little bit. So this graphic novel is extremely easy to digest. You can read it in about 30 minutes tops. And and like the movie, it kind of leaves you with a moral lesson, which basically for this one is to YOLO, live your life while you're alive, and to essentially face your fears. I think that's a pretty appropriate message given the audience, as well as it being based on a horror ride. So I would give the Haunted Mansion an 8 out of 10. The only issues being that it's kind of a simple story and Danny's character is a little bit flat. It seemed his personality only revolved around his grandfather, which I understand is important. I just like to see more dimension in him. Alright, foolish mortals. I'll catch you next time. Keep an eye out for this book, and if you dare and you escape the Haunted Mansion, I'll see you then.